Aung San Suu Kyi has launched Myanmar's defense at the International Court of Justice, where the country has been accused of committing genocide against its Rohingya Muslim minority. She's told the court the army may have used disproportionate force as it responded to an attack by Rohingya militants in 2017, but she's also argued that no proof the army was trying to wipe out the community. She says an incomplete and misleading picture of the situation in Rakhine has been presented to the court. For more on this story this case against Myanmar at the International Court, we're joined by Christopher Lamb from the University of Melbourne. In a diplomatic career that spanned more than 30 years, he served as Australia's ambassador to Myanmar in the late 80s. He's now the president of the Australia Myanmar Institute. Thank you for joining us this evening. Firstly, what's your take on Ms Suu Kyi's defence?
I think I start earlier than that. I start with the interesting question of why she's there at all, and how this sits alongside years of saying almost nothing about the situation inside the country or to other people. And so the opening up of the issue within Myanmar that this has produced, with people all over Myanmar able, as I understand it, to watch the case on television right now as it proceeds and to make their own conclusions about what's happened, is really quite striking. And it's a statement about the current state of politics in the country as much as anything else. And in fact, that's where I put more of my interest than in the case itself. Of course, the case is interesting, and of course, the conclusions of the court will be very interesting indeed. But the transformation of the country that this story is producing is really quite remarkable.
So you mentioned about this transformation that is quite remarkable. Is it actually a political gamble for her to be at the International Court of Justice, as some have suggested, or is she still is she trying to gain popularity from home ground in Yangon?
Well, you can say this about almost any similar proceeding in any other country. She's facing elections a year from now. The position of her party in relation to that, which is backed by the military, at those elections is one of the large stories inside the country. What she's managed to do is to unite the country behind her at a time of really great international and national tension. And that's very fascinating. I think it has something to do with the way it's being done. But of course, she doesn't regulate the timing of this. Gambia brought the case. The court meets to consider the case. What the Aung San Suu Kyi's government has done is to decide that they're going to confront the case head-on in The Hague with their leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, leading the defence for Myanmar. And that's really quite striking. I don't think the people in the country have ever seen anything like that happen. Not just Myanmar, any other country has seen this kind of thing happen.
Well, you've lived and worked in Myanmar and followed Myanmar for many years. How long, and seen many changes along the way, how long do you think this process could take or sort of play out?
Well, what the court is being asked for now is what people are calling temporary measures. It's not at all clear to anybody what those temporary measures might be. But Gambia says it wants what would effectively be an injunction against any further acts which could be seen as genocide by Myanmar, while the court considers the longer game in the case. I don't know if the court's going to feel able to do that on the basis of what's being put to it, short of a confession and a direct finding of genocidal guilt. And I don't think that's able to be brought at this stage of the proceeding, so it could take many years.
All right, well, many thanks for your thoughts this evening. We've been speaking to Christopher Lamb, former Australian ambassador to Myanmar and president of the Australia Myanmar Institute.